Merry Christmas and welcome to Weaving Web3 with me, James.
Me, Reindeer Chris.
And me, Stash with Santa Claus in the corner.
Hopefully on the edit. We'll see if Chris does as well here or does Stash dirty and just have an elf
I'm just
there or
going to put the
something.
Krampus in the background instead.
Absolutely. So for this Christmas episode, we'll let you a bit inside baseball. We've pre-recorded this. We're not stuffed full of turkey. But so what we thought we'd do is normally we pick topics of the week. So we're going through and we talk about whatever's happened. We will have all those topics. They'll probably be coming next week. So what we thought we'd do is do something that is probably good for new people getting into crypto and sort of how we might recommend getting into crypto the very first time. And one thing we thought we would do is watch a crypto documentary. So we've all watched a crypto documentary this week, and we're going to talk about what we thought about it. So we watched Cryptopia, which is a second documentary, the same director, and he's essentially talking about what blockchains are. It's very Bitcoin focused, which is fine because that's probably the most common token that anyone would have heard of, and goes through some various bits in his documentary. So what I wanted to ask you guys was, what was sort of the first thing you did to get into crypto? You know, did you read a book? Did you see an article? Did you watch a documentary? Like, what sort of got you interested?
Yeah.
I spammed every single social media possible, searching what is crypto, this is crypto, just anything. And TikTok, I don't know why, suddenly TikTok is the app for everything. Just saw some random person giving a fire bang 30-second explanation of what is crypto and how it's going to change our future. And I was like, hang on a second, changing future, money, I'm in. And then after that, I just basically started to evolve myself in reading articles, journals, and research people. I was like,
Stash is a little crypto goblin. He sits in Discord looking for airdrops, just trying to spy them out.
I'm not just doing airdrops. I'm looking for the right technologies because they're going to start banning people for like crypto hunting airdrops because those people are bad.
Yeah, of course. Stash would never do that. He's got all his hunting gear hidden behind him.
Yeah,
exactly. The big reindeer winks there. And Chris, how about you? How did you get sort of interested in crypto?
So my first interaction with crypto, I would say, was back in the day. It was like I was about 22 or 23, and I got scammed. So basically, I bought like a new iPhone, but I bought it off country, and I didn't realize that bank transfers can't be reversed. Really, or I couldn't figure out how to do it. And I bank transferred someone like 300 quid, I think, and they never sent the phone. And then I kind of tried to track their IP address afterwards and stuff like that, and it turns out they were in America. And so my reaction to realizing that I'd been scammed, and I realized on my birthday, actually, on the 1st of January, because I bought it as like a birthday gift for myself. And so I looked up, I was like trying to figure out how to make money back quickly. And like a lot of trading stuff came up, and crypto was there as well. Because it was sort of the spur of the moment thing, and I was like just annoyed. I never really went down the path then, but then obviously the whole GME thing happened, and I was kind of jumped on the bandwagon with GME. I bought one GME. I made a profit on that one GME, and and then I saw on Twitter, because everyone was talking about GME on Twitter, so I made a Twitter account. Like, I had a look on there, and everyone was talking about Doge. I was like, "What's Doge?" Right? I've never heard of this. Oh, it's a meme. Oh, this thing. And so through that, I ended up making, I think my first account was Trading 212. And I quickly realized that was terrible, because they ended up like limiting GME stocks and stuff like that. And then I made a Kraken account, and Kraken was, you could buy Doge if you wanted, you could buy whatever. I think there were only like 15 different cryptocurrencies on there at the time, but I was like, okay, I'll put 100 quid into Doge, put 100 quid into Doge, then had a look at the other ones, did a little bit of research, bought some Sia coin, and that pumped quite a bit, and then now it's down massively. But that was kind of my first interaction. I kind of jumped in head first and without doing that much research, which ended up benefiting me on the Doge front because I made quite a bit of money on the Doge. But yeah.
See, for me, this might be weird. I loved learning about internet scams, so it's hilarious that was like, sort of like what put you into there. It's like I love like tech, and I was always like proper nerdy and loved like computers and stuff. Like I've mentioned on other podcasts, like I used to do like Xbox hacks and things. Like you just put like silly names and rainbows and whatever. And so I used to love to learn about like all these scams, and it was a massive thing in like all these like scam people. Everyone was always talking about Bitcoin because the exact same reason Chris was saying there with like the bank transfers. At the end of the day, if you're doing a lot of scamming, that bank account is linked to somebody somewhere at some point. But if you were doing it with Bitcoin, you could just burn the wallet, toss it out, and you as long as you shifted the currency on, then yes, it's out there and anyone could see what wallet it had gone to, but it didn't matter because it wasn't linked to you as a physical person. So that's when I learned about it, but I never made an account or bought any when it was dirt cheap because I was like, that's all sort of drug money and scammed money and stuff. So I'd known about it for a very long time, but didn't really I didn't get into it early because I was like, it seems so dodgy. But I think it's hilarious.
It did for a long time. I think the legitimacy of it came when it ended up booming up to like the big numbers that it did. Because I remember hearing about Bitcoin in 2013, and my mate was like, "Oh yeah, it's just this sort of coin that people use to buy drugs with," and I was like, "Oh, that sounds like something I'm never going to use because I don't do drugs." So
yeah. I think for me, I remember seeing that I remember seeing on the news Bitcoin hit $1,000, and I was like, "This is nuts! This is crazy." And then like you look at the numbers like last year, and you think like, look at the numbers now, and you're like, "Oh, 15 grand, yeah, I'll buy that." Like because it's gone up madly. But I would say, like having watched this documentary, I think it was actually quite a good little explainer of sort of how blockchain technology works. The bit that was really good, I thought at the beginning, was they sort of explained how the wallets work and how the keys work, like what's a private key, what's a public key, how that works, what your store of value is, and all that sort of bit. So I think if you did want to get into crypto or learn a bit more, starting on this, it's completely fine. Like it's on Netflix, it's on YouTube as well for free.
It's on YouTube as well, yeah.
Yeah, so you can just pick it up, anyone can watch it, go and find it. But during the thing, and we're not trying to sort of blow up the whole documentary, but during it, you get a little bit of the ethics of crypto. So I think what a lot of people who are very new need to understand is the whole thing is new, and there seem to be a lot of very intelligent people who have got very strong ethical views on things.
Narratives and have it in their kind of favor, which is in every single institution if you look at.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's sort of one thing I was going to talk about or ask these guys to talk about as well, was when we look at things like forks in cryptocurrency. So I'll just explain for everyone at home who doesn't know what a fork is. If you're running a cryptocurrency called Stash Token, and it's run by me, Chris, and Stash, and Stash says, no, this token needs to do X, and it only ever needs to do X, but me and Chris think it needs to do Y, you can sometimes get a fork, which is just where it splits like a fork in the road, and you then get a classic and a new or something. So one of the first ones that happened was Bitcoin split between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. And the argument there was one party said, we want it to be a store of value, and like like appreciating asset, so something that would grow in value over time. And the other side said, no, this is supposed to replace cash. This is meant to be a digital, non-government backed cash, and that's why they split. So Bitcoin is still that store of value, and then you've got Bitcoin Cash, which is lower gas fees, etc. So more usable as cash.
Yeah.
So that's what a fork is, and they talk about that and sort of the divergences. I want to know what you guys thought about projects that are fork off maybe, fork off and make different. Look at each other, tell each other to fork off. They go and make different projects. And do you guys think that is confusing for people? Do you think that's reasonable? What do you sort of think? How should people have to reconcile the differences or make a new token?
As a beginner, getting into it and not understanding it, the differences between like Ethereum Classic and Ethereum aren't going to be like very apparent because you don't really You understand? So for beginners, I believe forking and being named the same thing, basically, like Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin, is quite confusing in functionality terms. Obviously, forking is a necessity for these projects and stuff like that. And it kind of shows, like, Ethereum, right? The Ethereum Classic, like, is a lot cheaper and stuff like that. Like, it's different technology. They're almost two different things, but if you know what you're doing, right? But as a beginner,
would you say it's like Coca-Cola? You've got original Coke, you've got
Yeah.
Diet Coke, and you've got Coke Zero. They're all drinks. They all serve a similar purpose, but one's full of sugar and is what people love. It's a classic. This one is a diet market for some reason, whatever. And then Coke Zero it's got all the dietness of this one, but tastes like the first one. And it's sort of, I think that's where,
So, right, that Coca-Cola thing is quite a good example. However, it's kind of like saying, oh, we've got Coca-Cola Zero, Coca-Cola Classic, and Diet Coke, right? They're all the same style drinks, started by the same company, but now they're kind of run by different people.
Yeah, that is where it's different.
Kind of. Yeah. Right. So you can't really compare, because obviously Coca-Cola is still one combined company. They run the whole thing. But yeah, it's kind of like that.
But I think it's difficult, and as I've said this to you guys before, like, if you're new and you go to buy Bitcoin and you see Bitcoin Classic, Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin, you don't know which ones are linked to the official Bitcoin, which ones are spoofed names that are something else that doesn't relate. Because if you go and look for BTC, you will find other tokens with BTC that are scam tokens or whatever. So I just think there's a real lack of transparency, and it can be very confusing for new people, sort of trying to find the right token.
And that's when you would go to a centralized exchange. But in the case of, like, also for when you look at tokens, everyone uses CoinMarketCap basically, and like that's not like kind of like a regulated, like, so there is no regulated system, there is no regulation. So any old Joe could literally, because the nature of the blockchain itself, when you create the contract or when you create the coins, you have the freedom to call whatever it is. And then there comes part of your argument being like, oh, it needs to be more friendly, but that you're censoring people's right to free speech because of the whole transparency of what the blockchain's meant to be. But I totally agree with you that there is.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because with the forks, so again, when we talk about forks, it can sometimes be because people disagree. One thinks it should be a diet drink, one thinks it should be full fat, which is a hilarious name for a drink that has no fat in it, full sugar. But that's the split. But sometimes a fork can be technological. So like Ethereum is going from proof of work to proof of stake. So it's gone from Ethereum 1.0 to Ethereum 2.0. Ethereum 1.0 will disappear, but will it be entirely replaced by 2.0? As I understand it, you tell me if that's wrong.
No, yeah. So we're on proof of stake.
Yeah. But so in that, although that is technically classed as a fork, but there is only one product. So that's a bit like a recipe change rather than, do you see me, like, rather than a subdivision of Coke Zero or Diet Coke. That,
like enhancing the flavor of something.
Yeah, new ingredients, new whatever, but that can also be called a fork. So if people are out there looking for something, you go, oh, what's the Ethereum fork? Doesn't mean the people in Ethereum have had a massive bust up. Sometimes it is technological as well. But yeah.
But sometimes they do have a massive bust up.
Sometimes they do. It's just an interesting one to me that sort of, you can piggyback the name and make it yourself, because sort of like Bitcoin Cash was a brand new token with all the prestige of Bitcoin with it already. Do you see what I mean? Like, you're going away from the ethos of that original token, but keeping all the brand. And it just seems like a weird one to me, because you know it's going to blow up. But the problem with that is, as well, the guy making Bitcoin Cash could keep as much of that as he wanted. So, it's Ripple, isn't it? XRP. The 80% of that total supply is owned by the original people who made it.
Not anymore. They're like over time they have been selling off like in like the part of the
Well, and making a load of money, Stash.
Oh,
But
yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
but that
Over time, they've been making lots of money off selling off their assets of
that
which
they
they had
created.
80%. Yeah.
But so there's that bit as well of that the founder can hold back as many tokens as they want. They can control the supply. But yeah, so and that's always a thing. But then they're always hoping that they want to release some of the supply because they want the value to go up. Is essentially how it lands. And also, you get to a position that happens with stocks and shares as well. Like Elon Musk is the richest man in the world, but he can't sell all his Tesla stock at once because if he did,
Well,
it would all
can't.
crash.
Did you not see he sold like 3.8 billion of it the other
He's
day?
selling a lot. He
Yeah.
is selling a lot, but no. What do you guys think? So we talked about sort of the ethics of people running like a cryptocurrency. What do you guys think are the benefits? Because take it like a base level. What are the benefits of cryptocurrency, sort of ethically? Do you guys see?
I think it will, or it basically gives back, I don't know, like self-sovereignty and like kind of like individuality. Because like we spoke about this before about the whole problem that's happening in Venezuela, their hyperinflation. Their currency changes I think it was every hour in the documentary they said. And cryptocurrency can prevent and save that volatility. They can put their money into like stable coins like USDT or USDC or like Bitcoin, which is a store of value which over time goes up, and it gives them that sense of security. And then there's zero chance that the bank's going to be like, hang on a second, we're going to take your money away. Because when you're in a bank, they control your money and they can, in a matter of seconds, prevent you having any access to it. But one thing with cryptocurrency is when you have your keys to your wallet are only controlled by you, and you are the only sole user. So it gives you that sense of security, in my opinion. And that's what I feel when I have cryptocurrency, that I am securing myself from the supposedly good guys, which is the government, and who are meant to be protecting us.
Although I will say, like our governments, like the UK government, mainly like a lot of the first world countries' governments do protect us. Do you know what I mean? There are some countries that are just terrible. Like you said about like Venezuela, there's a lot of like nations where the governments are, I mean, they're dictatorships, or they're not very well run, or they're all these other things. And it's like you said, Stash.
So yeah, the way I think of it is, let's say you're a person in Nigeria and or Zimbabwe, right? And you've got billions and billions of Zimbabwean dollars or whatever they are, and they're worth nothing, basically, right? So because, as you said, like hyperinflation and stuff like that, it degrades the value of your coin. Them, let's say, adopting Bitcoin as their coin, it's kind of them being like, wait, we're getting rid of Zimbabwean dollars, we're going to euros, right? Euros is more like one Bitcoin you can trade, you can use with the rest of the world. Zimbabwean dollars, you're gonna be like, oh, here's 3 billion Zimbabwean dollars, and someone in England is gonna be like, no, you can keep them, mate. I don't want them.
Yeah.
It's more accessible trading and more trust and belief in the project, I guess, than in your own governments.
You've made a really interesting point there, Chris, that I don't think I've ever really properly thought about before, right? If my country has real problems financially, right? So we can't get taxes right, we can't do this right, we always struggle with hyperinflation, suddenly our currency is worth loads, it's worth nothing, blah, blah, blah. What would be to stop a country utilizing a euro or a dollar pegged token as all their currency? Because really, if your country's dealing with this inflation, just peg it to something that it doesn't. And do you know what I mean? And pay your workers in USDT, or, you know, I'm sure US euros, whatever it is, USDE. But like, it wouldn't be USD, would it be EURT?
No, it would be EU.
I was like, oh, my brain wasn't working there. I thought the T stood for US for some reason. But do you know what I mean? Like setting it to something that is stable and therefore protecting your nation.
Yes, however, I believe that there's definitely some regulation issues there, because you're basically saying my currency is based on Europe's currency.
Yeah.
So if Euro's currency collapses, that means
but if the euro collapses, we've got bigger problems. It's like that Rick and
Yeah.
Morty episode where they change the value of the dollar, whatever it is, from 1 to 0. If the euro goes, it doesn't matter how many Zimbabwean dollars you've got, you're in trouble.
Yeah. However, like I think there's definitely a problem in the cooperation of those countries. Like Europeans will not like something like the Zimbabwean dollar or Zimbabwean currency, even if it's pegged to the euro, to be associated with their euro, because it probably gives them a bad name.
But they wouldn't get a choice. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm being a bit belligerent, but if that was my country, I'd be like, oh, tough luck. We've pegged it to the euro. That's what it's worth. You know, we'll trade in that.
But then you get like political tensions, and I guess I don't know. Like
I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting one. It's sort of like
it is an interesting like way to put it, but yeah, like I feel like currencies like El Salvador, isn't it, that's taken on Bitcoin as their main currency. I mean, they've done that for the pure reason that Bitcoin is a lot more of a stable currency than their own, right?
Yeah.
And they benefit massively from like Bitcoin going up, although I'm pretty sure they've probably wrecked their economy now. Now because they bought at like 40K.
One of the richest countries in the world.
Yeah.
From what they're doing. Like all the countries said, all the American countries, or even the IMF said what El Salvador's doing. Oh, it's terrible. They don't, because they're scared. They know what they're doing is the right thing. Or I personally think that like
Early.
What I was gonna say is, have you guys seen about Ruja Ignatova with the whole OneCoin scam?
Yes. I listened to the podcast. It was the
missing crypto queen.
Yeah.
So what I'd say to other people as well as Cryptopia, if you're more podcast people, which you might be, the Missing Crypto Queen podcast is a BBC podcast, isn't it?
BBC one, yeah.
It is excellent, and it talks about that, and that OneCoin, the coin that gets used in that scam, actually penetrates Africa hugely. And that's where I was sort of talking about the cryptocurrencies, that a lot of these people are looking for an alternative, and are looking, a lot of the time they're looking to make money.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that people need to be aware of as well in the crypto space is, if your currency is very weak compared to the euro, if you're making lots of euros, you're making loads of your currency. So, like, that's what I'm talking about, where it gives people access in those markets to deal in higher values. So if you're an artist in a country that's poor, and you can do your NFT collection and mint it online, no one cares what your nation's currency is, whatever. You're just selling it for ETH. And if people are buying it in Sweden or in Finland or in the US where they've got lots of money, or like a bit like China, except like the areas in China are very, very affluent people, they don't care that it's costing them $1,000, whereas $1,000 might be a year's wages for someone doing art typically in your city. So that's another thing that blockchain gives people the option, is you can open into markets that are far wealthier than your own.
That's very.
It gives you economic freedom, right? Like you're not constrained to your local area, right? Because anyone in the world can click buy, send the ETH over or whatever, and they've got it.
Absolutely. And what do you guys? Because obviously, one of the big utilities of crypto is cutting out middlemen, isn't it? You know, like you two will talk about it in a second. I'm sure you both got family abroad. When you send money, there's all these little banks go, oh, I'm going to pass that up to £100 on to you. Oh, fantastic. I'll take £3 out of it. Cheers. And they're just moving ones and zeros from one ledger to another and just take £3 transaction free because they can. And sort of blockchain can get you around that. So I don't know if Chris or Stash would like to jump in on that. But
so every time, I just want to point out, in Greece, right? I think it was the same in the UK at one point as well. But every time you transfer money from one bank account to another bank account, you pay like a fee. Every time you take money out of an ATM, you pay a fee. Like, it's things like that. Like, it all adds up massively. Like, you're not going to be like, oh, I'm just going to take a tenner out of the ATM because you're going to end up paying like €3 to get it out. Right? Yeah. Anyway,
The Greek economy is often in trouble. I'm not sure their system is working that well.
Yeah.
So, like, my dad lives abroad in Poland, and he sends me money every month just to help me sustain myself. And for a very long time, he used to get like charged 20 quid equivalent, and he's been sending me money for years. And ever since I discovered cryptocurrency and stuff like that, I was like, hang on a second. There's a place where you can buy. I introduced him to Revolut because there's a European international thing, and then basically you can basically buy cryptocurrency on Revolut and then send it to someone else for basically zero fees, essentially. And that saves him so much money. It saves me money as well, because sometimes he'll give me that extra 20 quid or something like that. So it's like, yeah, it's that frictionless taking out of all these greedy bankers waiting to be like, oh yes, thank you. You know, that meme picture where you have bankers at the top dripping like the tap, and there's that person waiting. You eliminate all of that, and it's basically the seamless transactions of
And you've got to think how many trillions of dollars, pounds, etc. get sent around every year. It is obscene. And then if you think that the banks are all taking these charges, you're not going to save yourself trillions, but you'll save yourself quite a lot of money through the international transfers and stuff like that. So I think that's a big utility of blockchain technology that everyday people can use. You know, you don't need to pay these fees, and also no one's looking at your data. Now, people get confused because they go, right, well, if anyone can see my data at any time, is that not less secure than a bank having it? And what you've got to think about is the banks will look at that data and will do things for other parties. And also that they are tying you to a bank account. So you set up your bank account, they'll have your ID, they'll have your address, they'll have all this info on you. Now, the same does happen with the KYC on the crypto companies, but they don't follow you all the way through the blockchain. And it's like, you might be KYC'd on one website on one end and wherever you get them out, and so might the other person, but there isn't as much snooping and fee taking on the way as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. The big thing.
Much harder to track transactions on the blockchain, especially for newer people and people that don't know how to use like Ethics, the Explorer for like different blockchains. It's much harder, and people be like, "Oh, I'm not interested to follow." If you do get scammed, like at first when I got scammed of some crypto, I was like, "Oh, I'll try to track the money," but it's being fired about all these wallets. I was like, "Oh, I can't be bothered, whatever." But now this time I could literally be like, "Okay, it's gone to this account," and then you see it goes to like an exchange account. You can be like, "Hang on a second, maybe if I contact that exchange and be like, okay, this guy scammed me of this money," they could be like, okay, this is this guy's email, blah 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 blah, and that could lead to a prosecution. But because it is much harder, it involves a lot of effort to do that. People are less likely to report these scams and stuff like that.
But at least, Stash, you have the option of doing that.
You have the absolute,
because in the banking system you don't.
Yeah.
You just like if someone scams you, like Chris got scammed at 300 quid, there is not a chance on God's green earth that the bank ever look into it. They do not care. So
that's what I found. That's what I found, right? Because I contacted, like, at the time there was like Scam Watch or whatever. I contacted them. They don't care. At the end of the day, it's 300 quid. Yeah. Like, that might be a lot of money to me, but they're more involved with this £20,000 scam. This £250,000 scam. They're not gonna go out their way to like try and return my measly 300 quid, which I'd saved up over like a few months.
And that's it's just not worth anyone's time. Whereas I think it's so difficult, isn't it? Because there will always be people out there trying to scam you. And I think that's something they didn't really touch on the documentary. They didn't really talk about the pitfalls. They talked a lot about, like, this is how good the technology could be without sort of warning people. And I get it. You've only got an hour and a half, and at the end of the day, they're trying to sell it to you. They want you to watch it, think this is interesting, this is good, I'll go and buy some, probably. They don't want to shrink the potential market. But I think people do need to have a bit of more of a balanced view. And I would just say, do your research. Just
do your own research. There we go.
It's banded around all the time. But there are certain exchanges that are very well known that if you wanted to get started getting into crypto, like probably Coinbase is the biggest one that did a proof of reserves recently.
Binance.
Binance.
There is fair FUD going on around, but I still trust the big players.
I personally like Kraken, and Chris likes Crypto.com. But like, there's a few big players. But just because they're a big player doesn't mean they can't go bust. Like FTX was a big player.
FTX, exactly, yeah.
So, and then one thing I was going to talk about on that, and this isn't so much to do with the documentary, but there was a nice little Christmas gift for somebody if they are a bit more into crypto, was that Ledger have released a new product that looks absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
the Ledger stacks. I didn't know if anyone wanted to share the screen and just show what a stack looks like. I can do it if you want.
I mean, it was co-designed by one of the original iPhone designers, if I'm not mistaken. I think.
I share my screen here. This here is a Ledger Stacks, so it's designed to look like a phone. So essentially, it's got a screen here. Now, this is for anyone watching. This is like a little bit further in from a podcast, but when we talk about like where you keep your crypto, you can keep it on a hardware device, and something like this links up with an app to your phone. I wish that was my balance. Lets you see your tokens and sort of have all your private keys securely on this, so that no exchange has got control of them. And what happened in FTX was a lot of people put money into a big exchange. The exchange essentially went bust, but they had everyone's tokens and their private keys, so they kept them all and said, "Look, sucks to be you." Having something like this will protect you. And it's not that this is anything revolutionary. It's essentially the same tech that's in their older products. But if Stash has got one, she can hold up, and you can flick over.
There
we go.
There we go.
My beautiful Nano Ledger X. Oh, my lighting is terrible. This is my basically hardware wallet where I will send my cryptocurrencies that I will keep for essentially life. It's my life investment, essentially, not ones I will play around every now and then. I'll send a bit of, I don't know, ETH, Bitcoin, XRP, whatever, really, that I'm going to be like, okay, I'm not touching, that I don't need like right now in my life, that is just slowly investing.
Yeah.
And like, I can, if I ever want to make a transaction, you put your securing PIN, and it's basically encrypted and it's safe. As long as you also keep your private keys somewhere separate, you can lose this happily, because when you buy a new one, you need to reset it. Your key is essentially the master private key to unlock your wallet. It doesn't matter.
But no, so that
tattooed jailbreak style all over your body.
It's basically
that's actually a great idea. If you can guarantee get your private key tattooed on you.
Yeah.
But no, the one other thing that they touched on in this documentary that I wanted to mention about was Ethereum had a large hack. Now, Ethereum is a protocol. Yeah. We were talking about the forks earlier. They had a large hack and they lost a lot of their ETH, which is the Ether that runs on Ethereum.
Like the very beginning when they kind of first started, so it's not hackable right now, essentially.
Well, I mean, everything's hackable, but they had a security flaw, and what they decided to do was to do what you never do in blockchain technology, which was to roll back the blockchain and essentially delete those blocks, which is the whole purpose of blockchain, is that you don't ever do that. Yeah. Is that the blocks are in there, cemented, they're there for the rest of time.
That's censorship resistant. But
what do you guys think about that? And does that undermine what blockchain technology is supposed to be about? Or do you think the success of Ethereum proves that that was the right decision and that its utility needed to survive? Where do you guys land on that?
I would be absolutely for it, because I feel like it was so early on in the basically blockchain days that could have literally cost the entire project. That could have been like no Ethereum right now. Maybe blockchain technology is another few years in the back, because Vitalik came up with this amazing idea, this amazing technology that could have so much potential. But because most of the money was basically taken away because of a bug that they left in, that for me, I think
would have been the Ethereum killer, right?
Yeah,
basically.
Absolutely.
And Ethereum is the number 2 crypto right now. Like, if anything's going to compete with Bitcoin currently, like it's Ethereum, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And if they hadn't done that, I believe they would definitely not be as successful as they are today. However, to play devil's advocate as well, if they can do that, what's to stop, say, some other crypto company going about being like, oh yeah, no, we've got the blockchain, and then rolling it back.
Well, this is why we need the larger decentralization of like the nodes and stuff. Like BNB did it when there was the hack. They didn't. They stopped the blockchain. They didn't revert the blocks backwards. But they were able to essentially stop.
They stopped it. Okay.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because we go back to the ethos and the ethics of it. One side of the parties think, well, the point of it is to be decentralized, and I think the other part think, well, it's going to end up centralized, but it's the future. And I think that's where you argue a little bit, where the centralized guys will say, well, of course we had to roll it back because otherwise it was going to die. And the decentralized guys go, no, that's the whole point, is you're acting like a bank. And I think that's where you get the clash in the community, is that what's happened is you've mixed technology guys. What's the quote about blockchain? His American says it. And he said, cryptocurrency is everything you don't know about computers mixed with everything you don't know about money.
Oh, it was John Oliver.
Yeah. John Oliver. But that's a classic quote, isn't it? And you think, I'm pretty sure it's in the documentary. It's a classic quote, but it's exactly what it is. You end up with some guys who are like economics guys, finance guys, and some guys who are computer guys. And a lot of them have different clashing ethoses, because a lot of the time the computing coding guys can be quite liberal. And whereas the guys who are the financial guys are very much numbers based and looking to make profits. And I think that's where it's the same with the internet, though. I think when it first came about,
it's meant to be for the freedom of information, and they even say in the documentary that the telephone companies like, we want to buy it or something like that.
Yeah, we'd like to. Yeah, but then it's the same with blockchain, isn't it? Like, those people don't understand what you're offering them.
Yeah.
Because the idea of we'd like to buy the internet is hilarious. But like, the whole thing doesn't work like
we
that.
like this. It's mine now.
Yeah, literally. But like, we'd like to buy the internet. Okay, well, that's not how the internet works, but fine. It's the same as if someone said, oh, we'd like to buy the blockchain. Well, you can start a new one, but the blockchain it's public.
Or you can own part of it. That's the whole point of the crypto.
Yeah.
Own part of the blockchain, and then you have your say in it by voting with the tokens that you have.
Yeah, it's just I think it's fascinating, and
I think it's too early. Like, there won't be that perfect blockchain right now. We need innovation, and
we're looking at the 1990s websites.
Yeah,
is what we're looking at the moment, and I'm hoping that if you're here now listening to this, it's 1995, right? The millennium's around the corner.
Yeah.
Have a look, learn about it, because in 20 years' time, you'll be like...
In 2012, just remember, Bitcoin. And then when was it? 2018, 2019? Bored Ape Yacht Club. Yeah.
But the thing is, though, like the technology's evolved so quickly that people are still very new to it. And like, we're new to it, everyone is.
Yeah.
Get in now, learn about it. Because I personally don't think it's going anywhere. And I had
and
a
in
coffee...
20 to 30 years, when we're still doing this podcast, just come and watch us and we'll be like, we told you so.
Yeah, we're going to be on our Mars base. We're going to be like beaming down from we'll have like asteroids with like projectors on Earth being like, watch our podcast today.
No, it'd be me, Chris, and some guy who has to open a donut every single week.
Stash won't be involved at that point.
Stash won't be there, but we'll make that guy open a donut every single week in his memory. Okay. Stash made 62 billion off an ICO that he didn't tell us about, and he no longer does the podcast. So, but we have he sends money in every week for a guy to do a donut reveal. But that's it.
I sell donuts for life.
No, he's opened his own donut shop and he sends it.
But yeah, no, I think my summary of this would be that the documentary is a good beginning documentary for a lot of people to get involved in it. Yeah. We've touched on some of the main topics that sort of flow through it, but haven't given away everything they talk about. But I would say if you've listened to this, or if you listen to any of our series and would like somewhere to learn a bit more, because we don't go over all the basics, we sort of do more news topics and our opinions, don't we, rather than helping people learn. We're infotainment. We are not educational.
If you can call it that, yeah.
barely even that. But what I'd say is, go and watch a documentary like this. Go and listen to The Missing Crypto Queen, which is a BBC podcast that has got
And
a
if
lot
you're
of
still confused about anything, just go in our comment section, right?
Yeah.
100%.
So busy
Hey,
now.
James,
I'm
we need your
honestly
opinion.
waiting. I've got my notification. As soon as someone writes something, I'm like, bang.
Drop a comment, drop a like, do whatever you need to do. Reach out to us. But
Exactly.
most of all,
and get in while Stash is still here, because
Yeah, because I might say some secret word, like a secret ICO. You in it,
Yeah.
and we're flying to the moon. Rocket.
we're going to tell Stash to fork off and we're going to bring in a replacement. And it's going to be happy days, just like his jumper.
Exactly. It'll be a Weaving Web3 classic.
Yes.
With George just Stash on his own. Opening No. I think, yeah, that's what I would say, is if you've got a bit of time between now and New Year's, find a crypto documentary. Cryptopia is the one we watched. We'll put a link to the YouTube video down below. Give it a watch. Drop us some comments. Tell us what you thought about it. Do you think it was good? Stash has literally had it. We've got rid.
No, I'm just making sure I've got the stuff ready for the final bit of the episode.
Oh, the final bit of the episode. So, yeah, absolutely. Find a bit of time. Go and have a listen. Go and have a watch. And we'll hand over to Stash for the final bit of our very Christmassy episode.
One sec. I need to make sure I have the box the right way, because the name of the place, it comes in a box. You know, this is a good fancy place.
Stash's dad, if you're watching, do you know this is where all your money goes? Is on the luxury donuts.
Yeah.
So wait, I need to open up there's an onion. Okay, perfect. Oh, okay, ready? 3, 2, oh.
Stash. Oh my goodness.
Oh, you've messed that one up a little bit, I think.
Oh no. So this is what we have.
Oh, this is the fancy we were expecting, Chris, isn't it?
It's Christmas after all. So
It's Christmas. It's Christmas.
Treat yourself,
like
right?
this golden flaky bit as well. So
praline.
let me tell you about this. Let me put it on a plate so there's no cheating on the
For anyone just listening, Stash is opening a very delicious looking donut.
So
we
are calling this the Black Forest donut.
Black Forest donut.
Black Forest donut.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I also think it has a filling. It's from a London-based donut shop. You can see the nice red.
Oh, look at this.
Yeah.
Is that like a cherry ganache in there?
Yeah, perfect. You got that spot on.
I'm not gonna lie, Stash. I did see the box label.
I didn't, because my eyes don't
I'm
work.
not gonna guess. I'm gonna leave myself out of this.
I don't have my glasses on, so right. I'm not gonna be able to tell you where that's from. I'm not a London boy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that's from Thick and Hot Donuts.
Oh, I like that name. Let's save that.
You go. That's
could
my
be
guess.
Donut shop could be something else.
Yeah, okay. Well, to be fair, Thick and Hot was probably not the best name, but
give us a guess. I bet you.
Come on, Chris.
You know.
I mean, it looks very nice. It looks like one of the regular sort of like classic bougie shops. So definitely the fact that I didn't cheat will influence this decision. But is it from Crosstown by any chance?
Whoa!
Guess it right.
Oh my god!
Well, to be fair, Chris, we've now got one each. So it's a Christmas miracle.
I mean, I'll take half of that because it was a bit of a cheat. But yes.
Well, I love it.
On that very merry
bombshell,
Christmassy donutty surprise. Yeah.
That was this week's Weaving Web3 with me, James.
With me, Reindeer Chris.
And me, Stash. Live long and prosper and eat donuts.